Welcome to Empower and Ignite Transformation Podcast with Alicia and Nicole. How are you, Alicia?
I'm good. I'm good. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Thanks for asking.
That's good. I'm loving your hair. It looks beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. It will be braided back up because this heat, and we are expecting a heat wave.
Oh yeah.
So, yeah, definitely. No perm.
Okay.
It's gonna get
That
big.
natural hair. I understand.
Yes, big and big. Bigger and bigger, right? Yeah. I'm excited. So we are now officially in summer, right?
Yes.
And oftentimes when you're, oh, well, not oftentimes, in the summertime, people get outside, right? They're
Mhm.
really outside. I think this topic is going to be really good and fun.
Yeah.
So today's topic is on, do you date at the level of your self-esteem?
Mm.
The question, and I've heard it said by another therapist on social media. She was saying that, she believes people date at the level of their self-esteem. And I started to think about that, and I'm like, I agree, actually.
Yeah.
I do believe that people tend to think about, even when I think about a man approaching a woman, right? He's
Mm.
often like thinking in his mind, like, okay, so will I be able to pursue her? Will I be able to get her? Like, do I meet, or would I have the standards or quality traits to be able to um date this person, right? So
Yeah.
they're thinking about themselves, they're thinking about how they value themselves, their self-worth. Um, and so I really do think that people date at the level of their self-esteem. What about you?
Yes, yeah, I think that's a very interesting topic, right? Because it kind of can go both ways. Because when it comes to men and women, right, there's just a big difference in the way that they pursue dating and
Mhm.
how they pursue dating. And so let's see here. When we say people dating at their self-esteem, are we talking about people who may stay too long in relationships, ignore the disrespect, or, in a sense of where they at in life, such as a career, education, things of that nature?
So when I think of, sorry if you heard that, but when I think of dating at the level of your self-esteem, I'm thinking, okay, this person is initially starting to date someone, right? And they could have been dating for a period of time. So they're in the dating phase. And so they chose this person based on how they viewed and valued themselves.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
And so
And
that's
so,
how I look at it, because self-esteem is related to how you view yourself, your self-worth. And so if you feel as if, so often you may hear someone say, well, um, I chose this person because they were this or that, or I felt like, we were compatible in ways. And then sometimes people will say, someone chose them and they just went with it because that person liked them, versus them knowing that they had an
mm,
option and they get to choose too. But I think when a person is deciding to be in a relationship, dating someone, if that person is really thinking about how they see themselves, they're going to be selective based
oh,
on how they view who they are.
yeah, yeah. And so that's almost in a sense of, understanding your worth, right? And understanding what is your value to know if I'm dating someone that's going to meet that same level.
Right.
Right. And I think that that's very important. So now going back to the question, do people date at their self-esteem? When you describe it like that, yeah, yeah, I could see that. I could definitely understand people based off how they view themselves on who they will date, right? In the sense of
Right.
what they would tolerate, the flaws, the habits, the bad habits, all those things. I understand how that could be very, based off of how you perceive yourself. If
Mhm.
you believe you deserve more, or if you're okay with what you have, or if you, feel as if they can grow, or if you like, oh, I'm done building somebody, I want them to be already grown, like, so different ways. I can understand that. I can see how people would definitely want to date within that realm for sure.
Yeah. I think that it really is where I'm not saying it's a negative. I'm saying being aware of how did I choose the person that I chose? Why did I say yes to wanting to date this person? Being really aware because I think it's important that people are mature when choosing to date. And so many
Mhm.
times people may not have become mature. Sometimes people don't even identify dating. Sometimes people think dating is just fun, right?
Right.
Just like, okay, I'm going on a date, I'm about to have some fun, right? But when it becomes intentional,
Mm-hmm.
that's different. And so it really is, okay, so am I dating with intention? And if I am, do I know who I am?
Hmm.
How do I value myself so that I'm ensuring that I am choosing to be with a person that is equally yoked and that I know that is meeting my standards, that I feel is at the level that I would want them to be. Because when you are in a dating relationship, and hopefully, if it is going to be where you're dating for marriage or it's really intentional, like I want this to be a long-term relationship, the likeliness is you're like, hey, I have goals for myself. This person will have goals for themselves. Do we
Right.
align? Do we share the same morals and values?
Right.
So all of those things will be a factor.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, like you said, when you're more intentionally dating, you have to look for the qualities that you cannot leave behind, in a sense of understanding what qualities you really need in a partner, right? And if that partner is not meeting that, what is the boundary, right? Because that's when our boundaries keep getting crossed, or, it'd be like this been a problem since the beginning. But if it was a problem in the beginning, then again, that might be the person character. And so some things they may not want be able to change, right? In a sense of that's who they are. So being more intentional about saying, okay, this is something that, is tolerable, and this is something that I can't live with for the rest of my life. And that's more of, understanding what you want in your partner.
Yeah. So when you are saying that, right, I'm hearing, okay, so if I know myself, if I'm self-aware and I'm like, this is who I am, and these are my standards, these are my expectations. I'm very clear. So when I meet someone and we're dating, if that doesn't align, if their characteristic traits are not aligning, then I need to know my deal breakers so that I'm not staying in something just to be like, I got a person.
Right, right, right. You don't ever want to start dating from that area of just trauma. We trauma bonded, and so that's why, we're gonna make it the mile, right? You want to make sure you're dating from that whole place, that true connection of we just two spirits just found each other and it clicks and it works. And so that's gonna be that real important part of just kind of more even, asking yourself, like, how do they make you feel in a sense, or how do you feel when you're around them? And that's a big thing too, because are they pouring
Definitely.
into you? Are they uplifting you? And I was watching a podcast the other day, and they said anyone in your life should be uplifting you, moving you higher. They shouldn't be watching you make a mistake and be like, well, they'll learn. Like, no, you should at least say, hey, do you know that this could come out like X, Y, and Z? Of course, the person will take their own route. But again, as relationships, being in a relationship with anyone, a friend,
Right.
a significant other, they should be uplifting you. They
Yeah.
should be pointing out, like, hey, this could cause you harm and I don't want you to get hurt. And that should be real conversations that you should be able to have with your partner.
Definitely. So I'm hearing, okay, so in relationships, whether platonic or intimate relationships, you want to be in connection with somebody that wants the best for you and will correct, and even in love, right? Like show
Yeah.
you or, guide you in like, hey, have you thought about it from this perspective? Or, like just really wanting to support you in whatever it is that you're doing, but so you can grow. So it's
Yeah.
no stagnation, and that you have the support. And that's so key because you have to ask yourself, like in any relationship, like what am I receiving from the relationship, but also what am I giving from in the relationship, right?
Yeah.
I always suggest in with clients exercise for them to do is identifying who they are, like really becoming clear, asking yourself, who am I, right? When you are able to identify your own characteristic traits, your personality, and then you go into what are my standards, right? What are my morals and values? And then what are my expectations?
Mm-hmm.
And being very clear, when you have clarity, it really is better because you're going to see things up front. Now, whether you choose to dismiss it or not is a whole nother thing.
Mm-hmm.
But you're gonna be able to have clarity in knowing who you are, what your expectations are, your standards. So when you meet someone, if the person doesn't align, if their characteristic traits are not compatible, then you can be really clear in saying, okay, so no,
Mm-hmm.
that wouldn't be my person, right? You wouldn't be stringing along out of desperation, just like, okay, I got a person, so I'm gonna stay with the person, or I'm hoping this person will change, or I think I can change them. No,
Mm-hmm.
the person is who they are. They've displayed that. Now you have to be honest with yourself about your deal breakers, right? Like, oh, is this a deal breaker for me?
Right.
Or am I willing to compromise on something? But when you are very clear about who you are, your morals and values, your expectations and standards, you're
Mm.
operating from a whole place of just deciding for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think that's so big, right? And that's why, we're gonna keep going back to knowing your self-esteem. Like, where is it? Do I have low self-esteem? Do I need to work on it before I start dating so I can make sure? Because like your self-esteem is not gonna determine who approaches you. If you have low self-esteem or high self-esteem, someone still may approach you. That's not gonna determine anything, but it is gonna determine what you tolerate. It's gonna, kind of determine what you normalize in the sense of what you're going to accept,
Right.
when it's time to walk away, if it's time to walk away, who you let in your life, right? That's always going to be determined by that. And I think it's, healthy to work on yourself because higher self-esteem, in a sense, the healthier your standards become,
Right,
right?
definitely. And then too, for people to know that so often people will feel like, oh, if you have low self-esteem or lower self-esteem, right? They're like, I don't want to say that, right? Because that seems negative, right? Um, Self-esteem changes over time. You can have high self-esteem, and something can happen, an experience. You could have been in a relationship that brought about some insecurities that impacted your
Mhm.
self-esteem. And then now you become aware about that and you're like, I need to do my work. So that's what you were saying about, hey, you need to be able to identify where you're at
Mhm.
with your self-esteem. And so, do you need to do some work before you go and move into the next relationship? Or are you going in,
Mhm.
with the unhealthy self-esteem, right? Like, maybe not even saying high or low, just unhealthy and healthy, right?
Right.
And being able to identify, am I operating from an unhealthy esteem about myself, or am I operating from a
Health.
healthy? And
Mhm.
then really being okay with, I'm aware. Once I'm aware, now I get to choose what I'm going to do with it. That piece is so key. And so I think that even when people think about therapy, the self-awareness that you get from coming to therapy, from, doing your work, learning about yourself, that is so beneficial because you're going to always be evolving,
Mhm.
hopefully, as you're continuing life, you're evolving, right? And hopefully for the good. But I think that that's so important to say because people are challenged with, I don't want to say that my self-esteem is not where I would want it to be. And life can definitely, experiences can impact how you view yourself. So
Mhm.
that's so important. And then also, you can have a healthier self-esteem in one area of your life
Yes.
and not in another, right? You can view yourself in, one area, whether it's a career, and you're like, hey, my esteem is higher in this area of my life, my professional life. But then still it's you. So it shows up in maybe another area, but it still goes back to your esteem is within. It is your worth. It is how you view yourself.
Right.
Even though you may be feeling like, but I'm achieving and killing it over here in this profession.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, you still have to look at it and balance it, right? Because sometimes we may pull all of our self-esteem so we can, show up at that profession to show our best foot forward. And then when we come back home in our personal life, we just feel unrecognized and then we just kind of drop back down because even in a sense we have to learn ourselves in a sense of just growing, and so that's going to be so big to understand, like, okay, I need to balance these two. I need to be able to show up in both places, so like you said, the healthy and the unhealthy, we don't want to be the problem. So for us not to be the problem, we need to show up healthy, and being able to show up healthy is going to be, sitting there, learning yourself. If you have those, bad habits in a sense, or you have things that I need to work on before I get in the next relationship, well, maybe it's time to take a step back and, rebuild that within yourself, that trust within yourself, because that's a big thing too. Make
Right.
sure you can trust yourself to choose a partner that will uplift you and not cause you harm.
Yeah.
Right? And we wanna make sure that we're not causing other people the harm as well. Like that popular little, thing, it was like, you don't wanna be the drama or the trauma in someone's life. Like, don't be that person, So you wanna make sure that you are building that emotional awareness to kind of look at yourself and look inward sometimes.
Yeah, definitely. Knowing that when you were saying something about I want to go back to it. You were like showing up in both places, right?
Mhm.
So when you think about just even doing the work in enhancing your self-esteem and building a healthy self-esteem, it really is where you're gonna look inward and say, okay, so where did these views come from about me, right? When did this originate? What happened? What experiences have I had? Am
Mhm.
I telling myself this about me? Do I view this about myself, or did somebody tell me this about myself and I took it on
Yeah.
as if it being the truth, right?
Mhm.
But also, oftentimes when someone is wanting someone to validate them, because I kind of heard you say, oh, well, showing up and the person, validating you, that also can impact your self-esteem in an unhealthy way.
Right.
If it is where that's what you're seeking, and then when you don't receive it, you question your worth. So it is where you must know for yourself who you are
Mhm.
and why you are who you are, how you view you, what makes you worthy. So often people think that it is all of the things that they do, and they think that it's the accolades and the achievements. But your self-worth is just because of you being existing and knowing that you're worthy, not based on anything that you do. God created you just in your existence. When He made you, you were good. He doesn't create anything that's not good. So
Mhm.
you come into the world or even experiencing different relationships and doing different things. And when things are not what you think they should be, whether you took on societal norms or someone has told you something negative about you, you took it on as if that was like a value of yourself. And then now you are like, I don't view me this way, or I don't think of me this way, or I'm not this or that, or and because of you outsourcing it.
Yeah.
But it really
Yeah.
is within.
Yep, yep. You're looking for the connection from others versus, filling that hole within yourself. And so that's really big. And, like you said, those questions, they're big to ask yourself, are you seeking a real connection or are you seeking something that's a distraction? Because sometimes too, we do that, right? And then you said something really important. And that was sometimes we are prepared to love someone and to give out love, sometimes we're not prepared to receive it. We
Yeah.
don't know how to receive it. And that's a big thing. We try, but some
Right.
people aren't prepared to receive it because they haven't worked on themselves to open up themselves and knock down some of those walls, the past relationships and the hurt that they have experienced, the, history of relationship that they've seen growing up. They're not ready to confront it. So then it's hard for them to receive the love when it's being thrown at them. And that's where it's you have to come from a whole place.
Yeah.
It's
Identifying, okay, so if I'm closed off, if I'm guarded, if I'm not open to receiving the love, do I not think I'm worthy of the love? What prevents me from just receiving love?
right.
Like it's
Yeah.
it's available.
And
I
that's
can
where it
have
comes back
it.
to that. Yeah.
So what is it that's preventing me? Am I afraid? What have I told myself, or what have someone told me about it?
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes people think that they're protecting themselves. So if I don't get too caught up in it, if I don't, fall for, or if I keep this guard up, then I
Right.
won't get hurt. But that's the maturity piece, right? In dating and being in relationship, you can't predict and know. That's you willing because you want the love, so you're like, I'm willing to take the chance. I don't know. The likeliness is you will get hurt.
Mhm.
I mean, if I'm just being honest, we've all been hurt in relationships
Yeah.
because no one's perfect and
Right.
because they're going to show up hopefully as their best self. But even as their best self, they're not going to always be able to do or be what you would want them to be. And in that, you can get hurt, not necessarily intentionally either.
No.
Sometimes people are not intentionally trying to hurt you. Now, if they intentionally trying to do it, I need you to run. Um,
That's knowing your self-worth.
listen, but sometimes it just is two people coming together. Just let think about this. Two people coming together. They have different backgrounds. They were raised different. They think differently. One household may have not been one where there was affection shown. Communication might not have been effective. It might have been we just brush everything under the rug. We just, like act like it didn't happen and keep moving, even though somebody's feelings was hurt. We don't say anything. And then the other person might have come from a household. We hug, we talk about everything. We
Mm-hmm.
can't go to bed upset. We was raised, we had to, and so then now two people coming together
Yes.
and they're like, we love each other, we together. But now an issue comes up and we deal with it differently.
Right.
So now we have to be able to come together and say, we have to communicate.
Mm-hmm.
That's the foundation. Effective communication. People just go in relationships and like, even when you think about premarital counseling and just really like preparing for marriage, and I know I'm kind of jumping, but if you're not at that phase, even the foundation of a relationship, what is our relationship built on?
Ooh.
What did we say we wanted? And in order for us to be clear, we must create the foundation. I always tell my couple clients, listen, what is the foundation of this relationship?
Yeah.
And they often don't have one and are unclear of what it is or have made a foundation that really wasn't a healthy one.
Mm-hmm.
So then we go back and we have to now create a new foundation.
Mm-hmm.
Because if that's not solid, listen.
Right.
And I always lead with, okay, I'm going to give you one, and then you're going to create more. So effective communication is not an option, but I know it takes time for some people to learn how to communicate effectively.
Right.
But I say the first is respect.
Mm-hmm.
That is the first foundation piece we're going to build. You're going to come up with some, the other person's going to come up with some, but we know you must have respect. That's not
Right.
an option.
Mm-hmm.
Um, or it's not healthy. I mean, it's an
Yeah.
option, but it's not healthy.
No.
So really becoming clear and just
Yeah.
not thinking, and I think that might be a big piece of why when I hear on social media people jumping from the next person to the next person, or I'm just dating this person, or we went out once or twice, right? But I don't like him no more, or I don't like her or him, whatever, however that goes, right? Um, were you really asking questions that were um really necessary, or were you surface level? Like, what's your favorite color? What's your, all the
Yeah.
favorite
Yeah.
movie, all that. No,
Right.
were you really getting to know the person, or were you just like eating and drinking and you just feel like I had fun last night, but I
Correct.
don't really know next,
Mm-hmm.
like that piece. That
Yeah. That shallow level. We didn't get to know
right.
each other really to the core, right? Of what we actually wanted and built that together. We just kind of got to know each other what is going on right now. And you made a great point, and I'm so happy we got to touch on this right before we lose the rest of our time. You made a good point on jumping from relationships to relationships because again, we're not sitting here telling you that if you didn't build that solid foundation, you can't. It's not too late. Even if you're in a relationship, in a marriage, it's okay to take a step back and like, okay, what is this foundation for us? How are we going to build to continue to go these next whatever many years
Right.
we want to go, right? And then we also, don't want to give up too soon.
Mhm.
Don't think you're going to find that perfect person. And we're telling you to have enough self esteem and enough boundaries that you right. I don't have to take him not putting that toilet seat down. I'm finding someone else. We're not saying that, right? There's some things you're going to have to learn to compromise and certain things you have to bend because, again, they're accepting you as well. And
Mhm.
they're accepting what comes with you. And that may be you don't put the lid on the top on the toothpaste, right? And that may be a thing that irks them, but if they're accepting that, why can't you accept about that toilet seat, right? So there go that balance of understanding. I know, these are the hard boundaries. These are what we can't go without. That foundation, like you said, respect, that open communication where you can still be you, where you don't feel controlled, trapped, stuck in a box. You have that freedom of expression. That should be a great foundation. But of course, again, everyone have their own foundations. But that's a great foundation to get started in, right? And
Right.
to build up from there. But I think that that's so important. It's not about, looking for this special person and I can't deal with nothing, Alicia got going on because it's too much. It's about what am I willing to compromise and is Alicia flaws too big for me to accept
Mm. Yeah.
forever, right? Because
Mm.
like you said, eventually we're all gonna get hurt, and that's the sad truth of it all. We are afraid to put our feelings out there, but even if we go and we put them feelings out there and it's a beautiful marriage and it's all the way until we 80, 90 years old, we're still eventually gonna get hurt, right? Not
And
on
not
purpose,
intentionally, right?
no purpose, but that is what life is. Life have hurts, life have pain, but life is also beautiful. Life is also, joy, right? And it comes with it. So you want a partner. You don't want no one to come and be your savior.
Yeah.
Because what happens when you don't need saving no more? Then this person's just there. And
Right.
now you're still needing a partner because all you
Mhm.
did was a savior.
Yeah. So really being clear on who you are. It goes back to,
Yeah,
your standards, expectations, but then also doing your own individual work so you could show up healthy and whole.
right.
Um,
And take
and
time for yourself. Take time
Mhm.
to learn you, to date you, to know
Right.
what you want. Because you
Exactly.
can't expect someone to respect your boundaries or, show up the way that you need if you don't even know what you need, right?
Exactly. That's so true. You need to be clear for yourself. That way you can communicate effectively your standards are, what your expectations are. But then also know your deal breakers. Know that everybody is coming from a place of likely experiencing some form of traumatic experiences, some childhood things that could have went on in their lives, not to make excuses for anybody, because I'm not saying you choose because, oh, well, I could fix somebody. They need to do their work too. But all I'm saying is that everyone has a past. Everyone should be doing their work. And as long as people are doing their work and it is the right person for you, it is where you're okay with, then, definitely. But yeah, I think that, maturity is necessary in dating. And
Yes.
I know we could just go on and on. But I do think, after hearing that comment about people date at the level of their self-esteem, I agree with it. I do think that I could see that. I could see how that is. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely. And it's always one of them things too. We get lonely as humans, but it doesn't mean to go and find a partner. Sometimes we just need a good friend. Right? And that's okay. Sometimes we just need to be okay with just us, and
Yeah.
sometimes that's okay. But don't rush into something with a partner because you're lonely and then, end up with a
Yeah.
lot of
Don't
regret and
try to fill a
heartache.
void of loneliness. Yeah.
Right.
That's not healthy.
Yeah.
So definitely that.
All right.
And listen, I did not say it at the beginning, but I'm gonna say it at the end. If you
Yeah.
are new to our channel, please like, subscribe, and share.
Yeah. And don't forget to follow us on social media. We're on Instagram and on TikTok at Empower Ignite and then the number 2.
All righty. Take care.